Saudi Arabia has kicked the United States out of the Air Force bases in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh and elsewhere, and is refusing to allow the United States to use the airspace over Saudi Arabia. Let me repeat this critical breaking news one more time. Saudi Arabia has banned, has blocked, has prohibited the United States from using Air Force bases in Saudi Arabia and airspace over Saudi Arabia. And this is a massive deal, folks, because Donald Trump and MBS at one point appeared to be very close. They had all of those quid pro quos together, and Saudi Arabia critical for Donald Trump's efforts at invading Iran and regime change. And now Saudi Arabia is saying, stay the heck out. We can't have you in our country anymore, and you can't fly over our airspace. And folks, what we're learning from a new exclusive NBC report, this is the reason why in just a 24-hour period, Donald Trump stopped his Project Freedom operation. Donald Trump announced publicly a surrender to Iran. When Donald Trump announced 24 hours before Project Freedom, we're sending Navy ships through the Strait of Hormuz, where we're going to be escorting all of these tankers and cargo ships out. What went down was Saudi Arabia didn't know about Project Freedom or didn't know that Donald Trump was going to make social media posts like that, which would cause escalation in the region. And we saw it immediately caused escalation in the region. That's exactly what Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince MBS was worried about. MBS holding hope that these Pakistani mediations, it's going to result in a long-term peace plan. Remember, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have a mutual defense accord, which frankly leans a little bit more in favor of Saudi Arabia when it comes to military and money when it comes to what Pakistan is getting out of it. So when Donald Trump announced this Project Freedom and Iran responded by immediately going after a South Korean cargo ship, a UAE ship, and the port of Fujairah in the UAE, Saudi Arabia lost it on Donald Trump. MBS flipped out on Donald Trump. It was a tense conversation where MBS said, seriously, you're doing it again? In late February, you and Netanyahu go and invade Iran and you don't tell me you're going to even do it when we have all of these deals with you and I have personal entanglements with you, personal quid pro quos with Trump buildings and Trump hotels and all of this money that we've given you. You just do it with Netanyahu and don't even give us the heads up. And now you think you're going to do it again with Project Freedom? Enough is enough, MBS said. We're done. You don't get to use our airports. You don't get to use our airspace. And then Donald Trump's like, let me call MBS back. Let me call MBS back. And MBS is like, no, I'm not your bro. We're not friends. We ain't doing it like this. You understand? You're going to come to us first. You're going to tell us about this, and you're going to pursue a mediated path. We're going to try to reach a resolution. This region can't afford any more war right now. Quite literally, the Middle East is being bankrupted by your catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran. And MBS is like, remember, this is why we are now no longer funding the Live Golf Tournament. This is why we're pulling out lots of other investment money from the United States. We're only going to be investing in essential things right now. And so, no, we are done. NBC got the exclusive right here. Trump U-turn on Strait initiative came after Saudi Arabia suspended the U.S. military's ability to use its bases and airspace to carry out the operation. I'm going to talk about that in a second. I just want to remind you that back in November of 2025, when MBS was in the Oval Office, and again, this followed lots of quid pro quos. There's Trump buildings, Trump hotels, Trump golf courses, the whole panoply of the quid pro quo emolument clause violation stuff. Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia did that all together, thick as thieves, as they would say. Saudi Arabia is also the biggest investor in Jared Kushner's fund. And let me just show you right here what went down so you can see for yourself in the Oval Office. Let's play this clip right here.
It's another league, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
And Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand. Remember Biden? He travels for 20 hours, gets out, and he gives a fist bump. No. When you get out of the plane and you get the future king and the man who's one of the most respected people in the world, you shake his hand. You don't give him a fist bump.
And then just a reminder, Donald Trump was lying about how much investment money was being brought into the United States. $600 billion, $1 trillion is going to be brought in from Saudi Arabia. Quite literally, Trump just lying and making up numbers. Saudi Arabia doesn't have this amount of money in its annual GDP anywhere near this, yet alone to give all of this money to the United States. Let's play this clip.
The biggest plants anywhere in the world. And I want to thank you because you've agreed to invest $600 billion into the United States. And because he's my friend, he might make it $1 trillion, but I'm going to have to work on him. But it's 600. We can count on 600 billion, but that number could go up a little bit higher. Yes, sir. I don't know. We'll see.
You know, one of the worst feelings is hearing that sound from your car and immediately thinking, great, how much is this going to cost me? I've been there before. I'm sure you have. Unexpected repairs, crazy bills, and suddenly your whole week gets thrown off. And if you're driving a lot like I am, whether it's work, family stuff, road trips, whatever, protecting your car just makes sense. That's why CarShield is worth checking out. They offer low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plans that help save you from expensive out-of-pocket repairs. Plus, they include 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options at no extra cost. They work with ASE-certified mechanics and repair shops nationwide, and their contracts have low deductibles, so you're not getting crushed with surprise expenses. They've been doing this for over 20 years, cover over 2 million vehicles, and have a 96% customer rating. The road is calling. Make sure your car is ready to answer. Right now, CarShield is offering our listeners 20% off with the code Meidas at carshield.com/Meidas. Protect your vehicle from the unexpected before the first big repair bill hits. Join the millions protected by CarShield. Go to carshield.com/Meidas and use code Meidas now for 20% off. That's MEIDAS.
Well, let's dig into this article now from NBC News. Here's the exclusive. Trump's abrupt U-turn on a plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz came after backlash from allies. Saudi Arabia, a key Gulf ally, suspended the U.S. military's ability to use its bases and airspace to carry out the operation. Sources say Donald Trump's abrupt reversal on his plan to help ships go through the Strait of Hormuz came after a key Gulf ally suspended the U.S. military's ability to use its bases and airspace to carry out the operation, according to two U.S. officials. Trump surprised Gulf allies by announcing Project Freedom on social media Sunday afternoon, the official said, angering leadership in Saudi Arabia. In response, the kingdom informed the United States it would not allow the United States military to fly aircraft from Prince Sultan Air Base, southeast of Riyadh, or fly through the Saudi airspace to support the efforts, the official said. A call between Trump and Saudi Crown Prince MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, did not resolve the issue, the two U.S. officials said, forcing Donald Trump to pause Project Freedom in order to restore U.S. military access to critical airspace. Other close Gulf allies were also caught off guard. The president spoke with the leaders of Qatar after the effort had already begun. A Saudi source told NBC News that Trump and the Crown Prince have been in touch regularly. Saudi officials were also in touch with Trump. U.S. Central Command and Secretary of State Rubio asked whether the announcement of Project Freedom caught Saudi leaders by surprise. The Saudi source said, the problem with that premise is that things are happening quickly in real time. The source said that Saudi Arabia is supportive of the diplomatic efforts by Pakistan to broker a deal between the U.S. and end the war. In other words, a diplomatic solution, not escalating matters any further. Now, meanwhile, a representative of the parliament spokesperson MB Ghalibaf, Abraham Razi, posted the following. Axios's text is America's wish list until it becomes reality. This is earlier this morning now. Donald Trump flailing. He calls up Barack Ravid over at Axios and says, we've got a memo of understanding that Iran's looking to make a deal with us right now. We're speaking to them. We're very close. And Iran's response is no. Axios's text is Americans' wish list until it becomes reality. Americans will not obtain through a failed war what they failed to gain in face-to-face negotiations. Iran has its finger on the trigger and is ready if they do not surrender and grant the necessary concessions, or if they or their devilish hench-dog allies tried to act mischievously. We will deliver a harsh and regret-inducing response. And this is where Barack Ravid's at as of 2 hours ago. Remember earlier this morning, he made all those social media posts about there's a deal and we're going to be so close. And then the markets soared based on Ravid's post. This is what he does now. He posts, as U.S. awaits Iran's response to the peace framework, Trump said the U.S. and Iran have had, quote, good talks over the last 24 hours and expressed confidence that a deal is possible in the coming days. Folks, they're not speaking. This is all made up. This is all a bunch of BS. More lies from the Trump regime. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal, senior U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal editorial board that here's what the U.S. is demanding of Iran. You see, the so-called Memorandum of Understanding was the U.S. sending Iran the terms of surrender. We've seen these terms before that Iran has rejected now for months. It's why there hasn't been a deal. It's why Iran still firmly controls the Strait of Hormuz and nothing is happening. Here's what was posted. Here's what the Trump regime has demanded. A 20-year enrichment ban, hand over all enriched material, attestation it doesn't seek nuclear weapons, dismantle Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, ban on underground nuclear work, on-demand inspections, penalties for violations. In other words, the Trump regime is asking for a weaker version of Obama's deal from over a decade ago that Donald Trump criticized. And Iran is still saying, no, we're not talking about anything nuclear. We're talking about security guarantees first. We're talking about removing sanctions from Iran. Then we can get to nuclear talks later, but you need to get through the first barrier with us, which is security guarantees and reparations. So they're rejecting the weaker version of the Obama deal, and that's what Trump's trying to do. And Trump thought that he would announce this Project Freedom, and then he screwed over the Saudis, so the Saudis banned him from the air base. Now, notably, the Wall Street Journal explains, a senior U.S. official says Iran is likely to resist these red lines. Of course they're going to resist the red lines. They've always resisted these red lines. Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, just posted, Operation Trust Me Bro failed. Now back to routine with Operation Foxios, false Axios. They call it Foxios right now. The new equation of the Strait of Hormuz is in the process of being solidified, Ghalibaf writes. The security of shipping and energy transit has been jeopardized by the United States and its allies through the violation of the ceasefire and the imposition of a blockade. Of course, their evil will diminish. We know full well that the continuation of the status quo is intolerable for America while we have not even begun yet. Meanwhile, Barack Ravid of Axios posts this from the Hormuz letter, and Barack Ravid says, complete and utter bullshit by the Hormuz liar. And Mark Caputo says, this is so false and it is libelous. And they post this letter by the Hormuz letter, or this post by the Hormuz letter that says, breaking. Several whistleblowers say that Axios coordinated news with market insiders, leaking CME order information via phone calls up to 30 minutes before the market opened and closed prints. Crude oil short positions were also taken just before today's Axios report on a U.S.-Iran deal and 14-point deal, gaining substantially as oil dropped sharply on the news. Iranian political analyst Mohammed Morandi also says Trump, Witkoff, Kushner, and their close associates profited heavily in the past hours from the fake news provided to Axios. Now, Barack Ravid and Caputo say this is false and libelous. There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this. Now hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.